After nearly a decade, independent Polish studio The Astronauts has finally given the world its next title after 2014's gorgeous walking sim mystery, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Launching in early access, Witchfire is a white-knuckled first-person roguelite set in a dark fantasy world of magic and automatic firearms. Your witch hunter is introduced with a bare-bones opening slideshow, giving us enough context to know that a powerful witch is unleashing devastating calamities and undead hordes upon the world. Anointed and commissioned by the Vatican, your witch hunter is known as a prayer. Prayer.
Oh, well, alright then.
That's about as much narrative as you'll be treated to. Supposedly, you have what it takes to quell this abomination, but not without dying countless times on your crusade. Getting through your first hour in this world is a vicious trial that will make or break prospective players. Armed with naught but your weak little six-shooter, players are going to discover the hubris that comes with wandering into a camp of undead husks and soldiers, unloading into one or two of them, all while reloading your Volva. It just takes a couple of stray arrows in the back and you're savagely confronted with your witch hunter's frail mortality. But if you persist, manage those ambitions and tactically pick out a single camp of foes, using cover and evasive manoeuvres like your dash, you might just survive and make it back home, Witchfire intact. This Witchfire in question is a red substance formed from the obliterated remains of your paranormal enemies, desired by all witch hunters, prayers. Successfully extracting from a level by opening a portal will allow the player to retreat and channel the retrieved Witchfire back at the Herbatorium, which is the player hub. Here you'll gain permanent level increases as you pay the required Witchfire into one of a half dozen stats that affects everything from magic cooldowns to Witchfire drop rates and health. Beware though, venturing back into the wilds with unspent Witchfire is a considerable risk, as death at the hands of your enemy will see that Witchfire turn to dust. Ha! Psych! Nah, Witchfire gives you that popular Souls chance to go back to your corpse and retrieve your earnings, as long as you can make it back in one piece. During its early access launch on the Epic Games Store, only an initial 2 out of 6 locations were available for expedition. Every zone will require a powerful member of the Witch's entourage to be slain, and these are known as familiars. And this is quite a mean feat, as for every few minutes spent surviving and exploring during an expedition, new events and mini-bosses and enemies are going to come to plague your world. Not to mention, these enemies aren't pushovers, and the Witch's familiar is going to give you more of a tickle if you rock up to their doorstep without the sufficient firepower and magic. You're going to have to move fast, aim carefully if you want to take that Witchfire back to base and get the much needed power boosts. Once the stark power fantasy of being a gothic doomslayer kicks off properly, and you've got all your equipment slots filled with some magic on deck and your full rotation of weapons, this is when Witchfire properly comes together and shows itself off in a frankly impressive display. The double jump and dash become necessary manoeuvres to master as mobs of elite enemies spawn and rush your location. Often, there isn't quite enough stamina in your bar for subsequent dashes in order to avoid the myriad undead encircling you, and this results in these exhilarating shootouts where a split second could mean success or failure. And as your power increases after successful extractions, players then unlock the ability to land headshots, which can power up subsequent bullets with these staggering critical hits, which may freeze an enemy or combust them, exploding enemies around them. The game performs that beautiful kind of bullet ballet mastered by modern shooters such as Doom, Destiny, and even the recent bullet-free Immortals of Avium. Now this is all aided by gunplay that feels fundamentally impactful, provided that you can get off the ground with what are at first often unperforming base level weapons with some questionable balancing that sees a couple of them just pretty much perpetually redundant. However, soon, you will have racked up enough kills to upgrade your weapon to its second or third tier, which unlocks special abilities and a desperately needed damage boost. Eventually, you're going to find enough of the weaker mobs and annoy those fragile ghouls to death, which is going to help you level up those weapons. And now the ramping up of power that comes from luckily selecting maybe 2 overperforming weapons and grinding them up to their second and third tier is immense. It is this exact point when the player can stop hiding behind fences and praying for those easy kills and simply become the headlong force of reckoning that aims to slay the Archwitch of this world. To the team's credit though, Witchfire boasts a perfectly acceptable roguelike blueprint set in an atmospheric dark fantasy landscape. Each level is handcrafted with immaculate detail, with every camp and clearing defined by a name and a sentence or two that gives it just a little bit of thematic flavour. Now, as you look out from the boundary of the starting island, you can even see the game's other levels on the horizon, which you will recognise from the level selection back at the hub. The random generation that occurs on these maps is not going to affect the tile sets, but more the placement of enemy bands, their threat levels, things like chests, traps, dynamic events, and disruptive calamities. As you become familiar with the layout of the level, the game opens up that addictive just one more run flow state of enthusiastically diving back into expeditions with new toys and pushing your luck just that little bit further to gain better arcana and power-ups. As a bonus, not only does leveling up your prayer permanently make them more durable for the upcoming challenge, it also adds further new enemy types and increasingly excruciating dynamic events at the same time, and this is done under the surface. You won't know until you encounter them. This means that the ever-satisfying ramping up that comes with a good action roguelite doesn't begin to stale despite the heavy reuse of these two rather small levels. One other thing that needs to be emphasised about this game, and probably its most important thing, is its atmosphere. There is clearly some incredible talent over at the Astronauts because this game boasts some stunning environmental design, and it manages quite often to just suffocate me during play. And this won't come as a surprise to those that have played The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, but now the vertical freedom at play with the double jump means that this team has crafted a world that looks amazing from every angle and scalable approach. And the environmental effects that come after calamities have settled and the special effects come to rest and linger in the air after a firefight, man, it's as intense as it is sublime. It's something else. After such an impressive and ambitious early access launch, which is free of pretty much any disruptive bugs, I'm now left hungry for more content and really want to see where Witchfire goes from here, knowing that it looks very likely that this game's going to be able to leverage a similar roguelite experience to the fantastic Returnal.